I want to tell you the most interesting story in the world. Why a person becomes the person he becomes. Why a little boy or a little girl grows up to be the kind of person he or she becomes.
Since the most ancient writings, we have known that the human race is made up of having and not having. When I was a child back in the day, I was obsessed with knowing what invisible thing separates the haves from the have-nots. As a have-not, I wanted to know why so few could be well off financially in a nation where success is available to all. I just recently discovered that only 10% of people in this nation, 65 years of age or older, have a salary of $6,000 or more per year. More than 80% of all people 65 years of age or older have a salary below $4,000 per year, and only 7.6% have salaries between $7,000 and $10,000 per year, and only 3.7% have salaries of $10,000 or more per year. A man begins his working career in his 20s, often even earlier, and is lucky enough to live in the free world. However, according to statistics, only about 10 out of 100 will be financially secure by age 65, and only about 4 out of 100 will be financially comfortable. And why? Let me tell you how to find out for yourself. Conduct a survey. Start in the life of your neighborhood every Saturday. On Saturday or Sunday, ask the man in each house 2 questions. The first question is, what are you currently doing to increase your salary? Now, how much do you want to earn? And when you have considered the blank stare as an answer to the question, ask the second question, which would be, how much money do you plan to be worth at 65? And when the silence becomes too unnerving, thank him and move on to the next house. Ask 50 men, 100, 1,000 until you are fully convinced that the reason why people don't make more money during their working lives, and the reason they are not financially independent at 65, is simply that they rarely, if ever, think constructively about either subject. Unfortunately or fortunately, it's that simple. The reason it is so easy to make so much more money than the average person in this world is because so few do it right. This is a race without enough participants to worry about. The few who are actually in the race, they can all be winners. Some will finish ahead of the others, but even the person who finishes last will be financially secure and solid. Most people, more than 90%, are not even in the race. To prove it, ask yourself the survey questions. Up until the moment before you heard this message, what were your plans for increasing your salary, your remuneration, your value? How much do you want to earn? And how much money have you decided you will be worth when you are 65? You see, people who earn a lot are not lucky and are not scammers, as people without money want to imply, or have more brains or necessarily talent than friends and neighbors, and are not even in the service of arcane secrets. And only a very few are lucky enough to have rich fathers and grandfathers. Most people who have a big salary started the same way you and I started. And other people too. The only difference between those who have a high salary and those who have a low salary is that those who have a large salary have decided to earn more. They are the people who have made earning more their job. You see, a woman who doesn't think of making an apple pie for dinner tonight will never think of looking for the apple pie recipe. Without the decision to make the pie, there is no motivation to give a look at the recipe. And a man who never decides to earn more money will never think about learning how to do it, or looking for the rules to earn more money. You see, people do what they think they want to do. So get rid once and for all of the ancient superstition that people who earn a lot are special, lucky, or have money to begin with, or know someone, or are smarter, or whatever. These are alibis. They will be proven wrong thousands of times. The reason there are so many alibis out there is because men can't make the financial leap. They are rarely honest to admit that they didn't try or that they continue to try. So to justify their failures, to remain stable, They dream and pass on these alibis. We are all self-made, but only the successful will admit it. I once had the opportunity to visit Charleston, South Carolina. So I took a taxi to transport me to the historic city. I wanted to see, in particular, the battery where the famous shot was fired from Fort Sumter. In this wonderful guide, some of the oldest and most beautiful homes in Charleston overlooked the bay, and I commented to my cab driver about how beautiful they were, and he said, yes, some of these have 40 rooms. Then he thought for a moment about what he said and added, each of them is owned by a scammer. This is how they do not justify themselves and others in life. I didn't say anything because I didn't feel entitled to give him advice or try to fix his thinking. This is a free nation where as long as you don't hurt others, everyone has the inalienable right to be as right or as wrong as they want. As Thomas Lansbury, the American scholar and educator, explains it, we must view with profound respect the ability of the human mind to resist the arrival of useful knowledge. My taxi driver, and men and women like him around the world, have been deluding themselves and slowing down and rejecting the world's generosity and abundance for centuries. Knowledge is available to everyone. We can listen to qualified teachers, or we can follow the ancient obstacles of people who know nothing more than us. In just a moment, I will give you the formula to get rich. But before I do that, I want to remind you of one thing. Before a jet pilot starts his takeoff at the airport, he checks a list of things to do safely, item by item. He does it not only because it is required by law, but because he cannot allow himself to entrust such an important job only to his memory. He has another list that he looks at with the same attention is the one that he checks before starting his landing at his destination. He does this without fail every time he takes off and every time he lands. What I think is that living successfully is as important as flying a plane, and for this reason I think each of us needs a list. We have a list to look at item by item, before we take off in the morning, and before we land to sleep each night. So I want to advise you to stick the list on your bathroom mirror. Watch it while you brush your teeth in the morning, and watch it again when you get ready for bed at night. Read each point, and as you do so, think about what each point represents. And here's number 1. It's the formula for getting rich. It also explains why you are in your current position, regardless of whether you earn $6,000 a year or $16,000 or $600,000. It applies to every adult, regardless of whether employed, unemployed, and applies to the richest person, the poorest person, and every person in between. And here it is. Item #1. Our rewards in life will always be in exact proportion to our contribution, our service. This is the meaning of the formula as the first item on your list. Memorize it. Our rewards in life will always be in exact proportion to our contribution, our service. Hear it, think it until you know it emotionally and intellectually. You may feel a slight sense of superiority, realizing that there probably isn't another person who knows this in a mile. You can add it as a question to your survey if you want proof. If you want it in another form, here it applies to a person's job. It's the same thing. It applies, but you can phrase it differently. The money you are paid by the company you work for will always be in direct relation to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the degree of difficulty in replacing you. Maybe you want to write the formula in both its forms and think about it a bit until it's as much a part of you as your name. The reason it is not explained in the list is because you may not want others to know what you are doing. The list is only useful to a person who knows what the words actually mean. Okay, you have the formula. Little by little you think about it. Its meaning will become clearer to you. With this formula, there are 2 rules that must be applied to use it correctly. This formula, together with the 2 rules, is your recipe or map to earn all the money you really want.
Success is really nothing more than the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. This means that any person who knows what he's doing and where he's going is a success. Any person with a goal toward which he's working is a successful person. This means that the boy in high school who's working toward a diploma, or the boy in college toward a degree, is just as successful as any human being on earth, because he knows what he's doing, why he's getting up in the morning, and where he's going.
Now, let's look at item number 2 on the list, and I am serious in telling you to put this list in your mirror. You will notice it puts pressure. Item number 2, the gold mine. Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Archibald MacLeish wrote in his play The Secret of Freedom, "The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse." Strong words, right? But as long as you live, you will never hear a truer statement. The key to the success of every human being lies in his mind, the gold mine between his ears. An idea can make you rich. A lot of good ideas can move you upward in your work, and your ideas are free. I just think there is nothing done well commercially today that will not be done better, much better in the years to come. Next year's houses and what goes inside them will be much better than this year's. Next year's houses and what goes inside them will be much better than this year's. Next year's cars will be better. Manufacturing and distribution, marketing, sales and advertising will be better. Nothing is done well now, as much as it will need to be done in the future. And every innovation, every new improvement will be someone's invention. Now, look at yourself specifically. How many good ideas did you have last year? If you continue as you have had them in the past, where will you be and how much will you earn? Let's say about a year from now, 5 years from now. Every day in our lives, we walk through and overcome more opportunities than we can develop in 50 lifetimes. In the 1920s, Sinclair Lewis wrote, "You can kidnap a man, blindfold him, take him to any civilized nation with a couple of notable exceptions, put him in a chair in the downtown area, remove his blindfold. He could sit for a week without understanding what city he's in. The streets are all the same. The buildings are the same. The companies all look the same." This is still true today in much of the world. The reason for this is the fact that most entrepreneurs in this nation play a game called follow the follower. If a person goes to a company, no matter in which sector, the first thing he does is to make sure that the workplace inside and outside him has the exact appearance of any other workplace in that type of country. Do you know why? It's because he's been emulating since he was 1 year old, and he does it without thinking. For the same reason that kids all dress the same at school. He wants to be part of the group. He doesn't necessarily look at all the business establishments in his field, the models. All he needs is one incredible example, the one that inspires him, and the one he really believes in. He simply does what everyone else in his business does, and thereby ensures his own mediocrity. Whose drum are you marching towards? If indeed you are marching towards anyone, and why? He remembers what you do for a living now will be done differently, very differently a couple of years from now. Never in the history of man have the opportunities for all this been so good. But the vast majority of people will be the beneficiaries of progress, not those who bring it. Which group will you be part of? If you want to be a contributor, not just a taker, here is your first rule. It appears on your list as the gold mine. So think. Think deliberately with purpose. Use the gold mine that lies between your ears. Start by thinking about a special moment each day. During the Depression, a New York lumber merchant was getting rich, while the other lumber merchants were going out of business. They asked him how, and he said, "Every evening, when I come home, I lock myself in a quiet room, sit in a comfortable chair, and wonder how my business will be conducted 10 years from now. And then I try to do it now, instead of competing with every lumber merchant," which is what the others were doing. He was creating. He was doing the very thing that man is designed to do, the thing that man does best. A company that grows 10% per year will double its size in an average of 8 years, but one man can improve its effectiveness by 50 or 100% per year or even more. Experts tell us that each of us has deep reserves within us, which even geniuses literally fail to use. Well, let's start getting into these deep areas of pure net profit and using more of our real skills. Here's the best way I've found to get you thinking. Start waking up a little earlier than you're used to right now. This gives you extra time that 95% of men in this country don't use at all. 1 hour earlier per day gives you 6.5 weeks of 40 extra hours per year. At this time of the morning, take a refreshing shower, get dressed, grab a hot cup of coffee, if you're a coffee person, and then sit down in front of a blank sheet of paper. At the top of the paper, write your financial goal. Now, this is the amount of money you want to make per year. Soon, incidentally, you wish you wanted to keep it to yourself, just your business. Then start thinking. Think about your goal and what it will mean for you and your family. Then see how many ideas you can have to help you achieve that goal. Ideas to improve what you do now for a living. Ways to increase your contributions to reach your salary goal. You know, jobs have no future. People do. No matter what line of work you are in, there is more than one opportunity in it that lasts a lifetime. You don't have to think of new ideas or revolutionary new ways to do things, although you might as well have them. Think of ways to improve what is being done now. If you want to increase your income by the amount you have specified, you have to find ways to increase your contribution, your service, and the key lies in your mind, in that gold mine between your ears. Try to have 5 ideas every morning and write them down and save these sheets of paper in a special idea binder. Many, maybe most of your ideas will be useless, but some of them will be very good. A couple will be excellent, and every now and then you will give them something truly exceptional. You see, 5 ideas a day. That's 25 a week if you don't think on weekends, and that's more than 1,000 ideas a year. An idea can lead you to that income you desire. The law of averages is so much in your favor that you can't go wrong. Think about developing a sense of expectation, that is, try to have the feeling that the goal you are aiming for is a guaranteed thing, and it is only a matter of time before it comes true. You know, Henry Ford didn't start making cars until he was 45. A friend of mine started his company at 65 and is still going strong, and his new company has even better sales of over $300,000 a year. It is almost always never too late. Try not to think about things outside of your line of work or whatever you are most interested in. To think well and profitably, you must discipline your thinking. Keep it on course, control it, keep it in a field, specialized. Now, for the final item on your list, it appears as the word, and the word is attitude. Attitude is called the most important word in the language. William James called it that and said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes and their minds." And that's something to think about. They can alter their lives by altering their attitude, and mind is another way of saying we become what we think about. Look at it this way: your total environment. If you have been an adult for any significant period of time, your total environment is a reflection of you as a person. The house where you live, the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the job you do, the people with whom you associate regularly. Your total environment is an exact and merciless mirror of yourself as a human being. Now, you think that your environment can have improvements. You just need to improve your attitude, and your world will gradually change to reflect the changing person. Here's how to change your attitude. Starting now. Start acting like the person you want to become more. Now, I mean, if you already have the goal you're aiming for, how would you direct yourself and all your affairs? Do it now, and tomorrow, and the next day. Start now to act like part of the person you want to become, and you will end up becoming that person. Slightly in small ways. In the way you dress, the way you talk, the courtesy you show to every person you meet. You begin to act like the person who has already achieved what he or she is aiming for. The German philosopher Goethe gave us the secret when he said, "Before you can do something, you must first become something." When you act like the person you want to become more, the things that person would have tend to come to you. It's simply cause and effect. Don't rush. It takes longer to build a skyscraper than to build a chicken co-op. Build slowly, steadily, and well. Then when you make it, you'll get it. You'll stay on top. Always be aware of the so-called scheme. Get rich quick or sudden success. Never forget that word, attitude. It is your attitude towards the people you meet that will determine their attitude towards you. The person with a great attitude towards life and the world is the person who others call lucky. He is not lucky. He is just using our old friend cause and effect. His causes are excellent and his effects must be as good as the causes. Well, there you have it. 3 things to remember. 3 things to do every day if you spend 16 hours a day, 7 days a week training your golf swing. In a relatively short time, you will have a wonderful swing like the professionals. So, train your attitude every day, every hour. Practice thinking for a few minutes every morning and you will find yourself thinking all day. Remember the formula. Our rewards in life will always be in exact proportion to our contribution, our service. Follow the ideas in this message every day until it is as much a part of you as your name and address. You'll notice that every time you listen, you'll hear something different. You will have a new idea that you were unable to have before